Good evening to everyone joining us live on Twitch. I'm Joe, and this is Shoal Media's Time and Moments in Passing Festival official podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, we're a trio of guys hosting a virtual film festival throughout December. If you missed our first couple of podcasts, not to worry, we're trying our hardest to get them back up on the channel so you can catch up. But we have some great films to talk about tonight. If you're joining us from our social media platforms, thanks for following us and supporting us. We had a really great time last night watching Pulp Fiction live with some of our viewers. We all got pretty merry, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that everyone has seen us at our worst now. So expect the next few podcasts to be very casual, but we really appreciate your support. If you're joining us from our link tree, please make sure you go and check out our social media pages, stay up to date with the festival. You can click our logo as always. That can take you to the links. And as always, we've got Charlie today.
Hello.
And we've got Connor.
Very hungover.
Very hungover.
Hello, how's it going?
As always, you can check out our individual letterbox profiles by following our handles there on the screen. And you can see what kind of films we've been watching recently in our free time that may or may not be part of the festival. So, as you're aware by now, Shoal's a brand new online community. We've got a passion for film, and every day leading up to Christmas, we've been picking films for you to watch at home. And every week we go live on Twitch, and we're going to be talking about the films that we've seen so far. So tonight we're mainly going to be talking about Blade Runner. That was our film of the day today, but we also have Victoria, Birdman, 1917, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things. All of those films tonight. There's a bit of a theme with them. They were all part of The Long Take, so that's going to be really fun to talk about.
Apart from
Blade Runner.
Thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Victoria, Birdman, 1917, all famous for The Long Take, all in very different ways, so that would be good to chat about. But as always, let's start off with a bit of a debate, because I've really had fun doing that the past couple of podcasts. So what's tonight's?
Yep.
Go for it, Connor.
What we'll be done. Right. Well, today, the would I call it a theme? I guess I would. Today you will be debating. I would each like you to choose a film that either defines, redefines, or started a genre, or played around with genre in an interesting way. Mm-hmm. And you guys will state your cases, and then I'll have the final say as always.
Well, I went first last week and won, so I think it's only fair for Charlie.
Oh, all right, rub that in. Yeah. So I've chosen Annie Hall. It's a controversial Woody Allen film, which sort of kickstarted the whole like rom-com genre, and just totally made it a success as it is now. Woody Allen plays Woody Allen like he does in every single film of his, and it's funny. It's a bit cute. It's just a bit like heartwarming. You know what I mean?
I've never actually seen Annie Hall before.
Oh, you need to watch it, man. It's like even though it's Woody Allen, and
yeah,
you're not allowed to say it's good. It is quite a good film. It's sort of like took like the awkward male lead as a trope and sort of really elevated it, and you just yeah.
It does like if you haven't seen it before, I feel like some of it will be what you expect, but it'll do a lot of interesting things with film that like you may have seen before in other things, but you might not be expecting from this film. I feel like
it has it's a bit like When Harry Met Sally in that way, where like everything sort of references it, and there's loads of stuff in there that you're like, oh, that's where that's from, or like all the whole tropes around rom-com, they're all in there, and it's just but it sort of did it first. It's like it's good.
It's like
I'll have to watch it.
Like not the typical fourth wall breaks always, but there's like some interesting fourth wall breaks.
That class. He just brings out a guy. They're having an argument, and he just brings out the person they're arguing about, and it's like, is this true? And he's like, yeah, that's true.
I was thinking of the subtitles too, where they're having a conversation, but the subtitles are saying what they really mean.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to gloss over and what they're actually saying.
He does a lot of that in is it Love and Death? I think another Woody Allen film.
Right.
It's very like Monty Python-esque, and it's just crazy. That's like purely comedy, but yeah, he's class at doing that sort of stuff. That's just it's not like burst your belly laughing, but it's just a nice laugh. Like it's a good time.
Yeah.
You
Well,
sold it to me.
that's a good choice because Annie Hall is one of my favorite films. So you're gonna have to come up with something good, Joe. I'm just saying.
Oof. Okay. Well, I chose Alien, and probably not for the obvious reason of it being sort of one of the early body horror films of modern Hollywood, because we had body horror sort of in the 40s and the 50s, because you had like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm
And
not
The
trying to make
Fly,
an
the early
argument that
Fly.
Alien started the body horror. I want to talk about it from a point of view of strong female leads, and so heroines and feminism. So I
Cool.
think Ridley Scott argued for a really long time with the execs of the production company that Ripley was going to be played by a woman, and all the execs when they read the script, they imagined Ripley being a man. So first of all, we get an amazing performance by Sigourney Weaver, and really before her there is no there isn't. I would say there isn't a pop culture heroine before Ripley, because this was 1979, and it was the first time where it was a solo female lead in something that was full of action and suspense, and she wasn't a damsel in distress. She was kick ass. It's Ripley. When you think of Ripley, you just think badass, like 100%. But also not just in the strong female leads, but also in the nuances of the elements of horror in Alien make a really compelling feminist argument. I mean, first of all of the kind of sexual and phallic references in the sort of the biology of the life cycle of the alien.
Yeah.
Most interestingly, in order for the aliens, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Alien, by the way, what have you been doing? Basically,
you haven't seen Annie Hall. What have you been doing?
I know, sorry, I can't. Well, yeah, major spoilers out there. One of the main characters in Alien, in order to kickstart the film and give birth to this extraterrestrial creature, one of the characters, one of the space crew, Kane, has to die. The alien gets born out of his chest in the very famous chestburster scene. But interestingly, before that, the way that the egg gets laid inside of him is because his face is attacked by this spider-like creature, this face hugger, and it's really quite a coded representation, a coded sort of allegory for rape. And then
is that also that bit with the magazine?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
later on,
yeah,
he does it to Ripley, doesn't he?
yeah. So
Ash,
Ash, who is the in a plot twist in the film, turns out that he's actually an android working for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation.
Yeah.
And he attacks Ripley and folds up a magazine, which happens also to be a pornography magazine. It's like a Playboy, a futuristic Playboy magazine, and rolls it up and tries to put it in her mouth and choke her with it. So there's all these moments where it's very clearly rape, even though it's not, but it's definitely that imagery, that rape imagery. And I think obviously the biggest one for me is obviously the chestburster scene where Kane gets ripped apart and the alien is born. And I think that's supposed to be this huge allegory for how so many women have died in childbirth. They've had to die in order for their children to be born before sort of modern medicine really took over and helped. So for me, when I watch Alien, if you're not a massive sci-fi fan and if you're not a massive horror fan, watching Alien for the first time, you just think it's this grotesque, film with no depth, and I guess cool female lead. But to me, it's kick-ass female lead fighting this almost this summation of the patriarchy and like rape and all of that, and it's really fascinating study to look at Alien from.
Isn't there like the whole thing? Is it in the second one? It might be in the second one where Ripley has to get back to her kid. Is that in the second one?
Yes, yeah.
And then because then she has to fight the alien to regain her motherhood is the idea in that, isn't it?
Yeah. So obviously those themes were considered by James Cameron and definitely went through onto the second film.
Yeah.
But
It's the cat, isn't it? The cat's in the second one, isn't it?
that's the first one.
Oh, is it first
Yeah,
one? Because she like sort of the cat
Protects the cat.
represents
Yeah.
a child. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, just there's the obvious feminism of Alien being the strong female lead, but then there's also, in my opinion, the more nuanced, subtle feminism in the production design of the Alien, and also in all the execution of the horror elements. Which, you know, essentially there was nothing new about Alien in terms of body horror sci-fi, but to inject it all with more sort of modern ideas of feminism really brought it to life, and I think that's what makes it so iconic. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Alien really
Okay.
You could
propelled.
argue.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on. No, you could argue that Diane Keaton is in Annie Hall is like a very feminist figure as well.
Yeah. I know you can't you can't hop on my.
If it's yeah, but they're very similar. Like
Yeah.
You know, that's a very strong female character in that film.
Can I say a little bit a small trivia thing about Alien?
Absolutely.
It was for a lot of it. It was pitched to. I'm not sure who pitched it first, but it was pitched as Jaws in space, which is like the best pitch ever. Like,
that's mint.
Yeah, kind of makes sense, really.
Yeah. So I've got to decide now, and I love these two films. Thing I'm gonna have to go with, and I'm doing a little bit of suspense to,
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. I'm gonna have to go with Joe and Alien.
Oh,
because you came at it from an angle I wasn't expecting, and I just like, I mean, I'd agree with everything that both of you said, but I like the different angle that you came in with, so I'm gonna have to say Joe and Alien.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Very well argued, though, Charlie. Very well argued. Although you've definitely sold Annie Hall to me. I'm going to get on that as soon as I can.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good film.
Well, there we go. That wraps up our weekly debate. Charlie, do you have any ratings this week from Letterboxd, or are we moving on to talk about Blade Runner?
I've got some ratings.
Yeah.
I've forgotten. I might have done some of these last week. I'll let me know if I've said it before. Let's go La La Land. Did we do that one?
No, you
don't think we did.
Done that one. No.
Okay, so someone's rated it 1 star.
Oh, that's definitely me.
Yeah, that's
definitely me.
Mental. I don't think it's that bad.
Do you want me to justify it?
I know it's not amazing.
Yeah,
I understand it. I don't like it that much.
Can I guess at why you've given it? Can I guess at why you've given it 1 star?
Go on then. Yeah, I'd be interested.
Because there is one thing. There is one big thing that kind of stops it from being 5 star for me, and it's there's a white guy explaining jazz in the film, which is just
yeah. So you've got the very obvious Hollywood casting there, which really annoyed. And for the record, I love Ryan Gosling. I think he's a fantastic actor. I don't think he was right for La La Land. Emma Stone drives me mad and looks like a Persian cat. So I can't get behind her performances quite a lot of the time. Something that I want to talk about in Birdman as well, when we talk about that.
I rate Emma Stone. I think she's pretty sound.
Fair enough.
Why else?
There was such anticipation about this film, not only because it was supposed to be this kind of harkening back to the golden age of Hollywood, but there was also quite a lot of anticipation around it because Damien Chazelle is such a young actor, and this is his second film. And his first film was the amazing Whiplash. And that's one of my favorite films. And that got jazz so right. And in terms of a film about music, it was really captivating. And J.K. Simmons in the film, all of his awards were so well deserved, and it really put him back on the map as well. And he's gone on to do some really good things since. And so I was so excited for La La Land. I expected it to be as inventive and as creative, but to me, I think maybe the studio execs were putting maybe a lot of pressure on Damien Chazelle's sophomore outing. And they probably gave him a lot of freedom in Whiplash because maybe they didn't know which way it was going to go. Being a directorial debut, and then obviously I think the success of Whiplash led to the execs probably saying, okay, we want to do this with the film and do that with the film. So I don't think there's a lot of creative choice with La La Land. And the film, to me, I didn't know what it was trying to get at. Was it trying to be a musical? Was it trying to be a commentary on Hollywood and how it sucks to try and make it as an actor?
Yeah.
Was it trying to be a romance? Was it, trying to be this kind of melodrama? I didn't know. And every time it got close to being a certain genre, the next scene would completely ruin it and go a different direction. And I didn't like the ending, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Right, we'll go Forbidden Planet, 2.5.
Ooh, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I think that was me, because I think I watched it at the start of last year.
Yeah, it was you kind of, yeah.
I just, it was
It's
just...
a proper shit B movie, I get that, but...
No, that's the thing. No, that's the thing. I don't really think it is a crap B movie. I just think that, like, it's one of those films where I thought it had a lot of potential to, like, really, really blow me away. And I know I'm looking at it now, and maybe at the time it was a lot more groundbreaking, but it delve into, like, this kind of psychological aspect in the film and stuff, but it didn't do it enough for me. It sort of just half-heartedly went that direction, so I couldn't really, nothing really resonated with me about the film, so I guess that's why I did
that. Should we do one more?
Yeah,
go on. Yesterday, 2.5.
I'm gonna say that's you, because I remember you saying that you didn't like it as much as I thought you would.
I'm gonna say it might be me, because I think the fact that you're a bigger fan of the Beatles than me, Chaz, might mean that you rate it a little bit higher.
Yeah, it was kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
was I right,
I don't know why I
though?
rated that, actually. Yeah, it's all right, that film, isn't it? Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It's a bit cringy, and it's just a bit like, oh...
It's another film where, like, the premise is like, yeah, like...
Oh, it's a really cool premise, yeah.
I went to see it because of the premise, and then again, it just had a wasted potential. Like, with one sort of, well, not one moment in the film, but one little storyline in the film. There's those people who know, this is kind of a minor spoiler if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
There's those two people that know that he's stealing the Beatles songs.
Yeah.
And they, like, turn up at one gig, two gigs, or whatever, and it, like, builds this tension, and then it's just played off as a joke.
Oh, it's so shit. That bit really annoyed me.
Yeah, it's like you can't have this thing that is, like, one of the only real sources of tension in the film, and then
to just be a joke. Yeah.
And then you just play it off as a joke, and I was like, right, okay, well, this is, like, taking a star off my rating already. I'm sorry, but yeah.
The bit I was like, found a bit cool, but also a bit, like, really cringed me out was the John Lennon bit. And I was like, it's quite cool, but they could have actually got, like, Paul or Ringo to actually play it.
Yeah.
Want to play themselves in it. It would have been mint.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They've just, like, got a knockoff John Lennon. Like.
Well, I mean, it was Robert Carlyle, and I thought it was okay, but I do know what you mean. Like, why not just get one of the Beatles themselves?
Yeah. Like, at least ask them. I don't know if maybe they did, but yeah. That's that one. There you go.
Can we have one more for good luck? Do you have one more?
Yeah, I got one more. Yeah.
He's really getting into it now.
I'm getting into it.
Unfriended Dark Web, 2.5.
Oh, that's kind.
I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil
that won't be me.
It's got to be Chaz then, because I haven't seen that film.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
2.5. That's generous.
It is generous, but it's so. Do you know what I think it was? Because it's so much better than the first one, and because the first one is absolute trash. It's like.
I can't believe that you watched the first one, you think it's trash, and then you watch the second one as well.
They're a bit guilty pleasures, like me so phonemic like to watch them. It's just
this is trash. I'm gonna watch the second one.
Yeah, exactly.
I do know what you mean.
To be fair,
you say if the Room 2 came out, you wouldn't watch it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, but that's become hyper trash. So
yeah. Well, this is a bit like that.
That's okay. As long, I mean, I can't really argue with watching it as a guilty pleasure, because I think I've given all the Transformers films at least a 5 or a 6. So
nice.
Yeah.
I think it's the hamster, isn't it, in that as well, when he's over the screen.
Yeah.
It's such a good shot.
Well, I think we've established that Charlie really likes trash horror.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this week, some really good films that we've had. We had I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is on Netflix at the moment, and then we had our trilogy of long shot films: Victoria, Birdman, and 1917. It's going to be really good to talk about those in a sec. But Blade Runner, that's our film of the day.
Yeah.
Quite a big one as well. Lots to talk about. Does anyone want to
big boy.
start?
The first thing
Go
I'll
on,
say
Connor.
is, have we all seen the same cut of this film? Which cuts have we seen of the film?
Yeah.
I've not. Which one did I see with you, Joe?
That would have been the final cut with me, the 2007 one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that one then.
That's I think that's definitely the one that I've watched the most recently for
Yeah.
this, but I think that's the only one I've actually seen. So yeah, okay. I'm just
What, so just like, what are the differences? Like, is it massive or not?
Yeah,
Ish,
well,
yeah. It's
so,
sorry, go on, Connor. Yeah, you explain.
well, the only thing that I know that's different is I know that the theatrical cut of the film, the I don't know which producers or whatever, but someone involved in the production thought that the film needed a voiceover to explain some of the more, so kind of just explain some of the subtext and things, just to just to get rid of any poetry in the film whatsoever.
Right.
And,
Okay.
There's a rather bad
because
Harrison Ford voiceover.
Yeah, because you can just tell that Harrison Ford doesn't want to do it because he just knows that it's the wrong decision, so he just completely phones it in, basically.
Yeah,
Right,
it's a very
okay.
monotone voiceover performance.
So was that the theatrical version?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And it actually scored really badly with test audiences as well. There's so
right.
many different cuts. I think there's about 7 cuts in total.
Is it like Apocalypse Now, like that level of?
It's
cuts?
worse than that. There's more.
Right.
Yeah, I think there is a Blu-ray box set out there in the wild in which you can own all 7 cuts.
Wow, 7
across like 5 discs.
Yeah.
Mental.
I think obviously the one that people are most familiar with now is the final cut from 2007, which I would argue is very definitive and much improved over the other ones.
Yeah.
I think even so there's an alternate ending as well in a few of the cuts in which Deckard and Rachel are in a car, like a normal car as well, not even like a city hover car. They're in a normal one and they're driving into the countryside, and the countryside is beautiful. It's like green, lush green trees everywhere, and it just completely takes you out of the film. And I think there's another alternate ending where they do the similar thing, and they're on a train leaving San Angeles in California, and again the whole film is so gritty and dark and neo noir, and then that's such a jarring ending.
This thing at the end,
and then couple that with some really questionable voiceover, and it really ruined it for me. So I'm really glad that's not in the final cut.
One other thing I'd say is the color grading is different as well.
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay.
There's a lot of that.
It gives it a very different tone as well, the color grading in the final cut.
There's just some really cheesy executed things in some of the different cuts, like something as small as the logo. In the final cut, it's just a nice soundtrack, nice and eerie. The logo just appears and fades in a nice font. But in the original work print cut, the title screen for the film is really different. The words Blade Runner slide into the screen from the left, like accompanied by the sound of knives, and it's really bad. And things like the opening shot, it doesn't include the famous close-up of the eye. It simply cuts closer and closer to the Tyrell building, and to me, the eye is such a breathtaking, iconic, and really related to our theme. I would say, like that moment in passing, something as simple as a blink or an eye flicker. It's to hold that in stasis and have the audience fix on that for quite a while it's one way to start your film. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the end in 2001. When he's going through the monolith and that.
Yeah. So I've got a little fun game to play. Obviously throughout the film, there's a hint as to whether Deckard is an android or not, and I thought I'd catch you guys off guard and get you to debate over whether you think Deckard is real or not a real human, or whether he's a replicant. Now, obviously, we're going to base it off of the final cut in 2007 because that's the one that we've all seen.
Yeah.
Because I will say that some of the other cuts do hint like or lean in a very specific way, but the 2007 final cut is very, very ambiguous. So, Connor,
Okay.
take the
Are
floor.
we're ignoring 2049 as well, aren't we? We're saying.
I think if we're looking at Blade Runner
because-
isolated, it makes sense.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not ambiguous, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm arguing that he is a replicant. Deckard is a replicant.
Okay.
And the strongest piece of evidence I have is that he has this dream of like a dense forest, and there's a unicorn. It's literally just a unicorn galloping through this forest, and this is like a recurring dream that he has. And I cannot remember his partner in the film, but his partner in the film gives him an origami, like the classic silver origami unicorn.
Yeah.
And Deckard doesn't tell this dream to anyone in the film throughout the film. And we know that replicants are not physically injected, but they're injected with fake memories, aren't they? So for someone else to know some kind of memory or dream that he's having without him sharing it, and something so specific as well as a unicorn, I think that indicates to me that he's a replicant. That would be the strongest piece of evidence for me. So for that reason, maybe even that reason alone, I'm saying that he's a replicant.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to say he isn't a replicant.
Okay.
It's a good job that you're going to say that. Otherwise, it'd be.
Yeah. So yeah, I've not been forced into that position at all. Because he can love, and I don't think a machine can love.
Oh, philosophical. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if we're talking about it in terms of isolating Blade Runner away from its sequel, then yes, but obviously the sequel leans into the fact that Rachel, being a replicant, gave birth, and that Deckard loved her regardless. So
right.
I think if replicants can have children.
But we're ignoring the next film, aren't we?
I know. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think looking from I think that's a good argument if we're looking at just Blade Runner.
Because isn't that whole thing at the end with the guy with white hair when it's raining on the rooftop?
Yeah.
Doesn't he say a lot about love? I've forgotten what the speech is, but
the very famous.
It's in the soundtrack, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like Tears in Rain.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Rutger Hauer for his performance.
Quick shout out if you're watching.
Yeah, if he's watching. I mean, it's a bit awkward because he died last year, but
yeah.
Right. Oh shit.
Yeah, but his performance in that, and I think he actually in later years reflected on Blade Runner as being his proudest performance. He really liked that, and most of the famous monologue that he gives at the end is actually improvised, which is just awesome. It's a great quote, like Tears in Rain, and actually it gets used as a soundtrack for 2049.
Yeah.
Later on.
I'd say that monologue alone justifies us using it in Time and Moments in Passing, because that's literally what his monologue's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I think I'm going to side with Chaz and say that he's human.
Oh, okay.
But
finally got a point. I finally won a debate.
Purely for the fact that I think his performance leads him in a more human direction. His hesitation and I can't get behind that he was made. I think the film leans into this idea that humans are replicants, that the replicants can be seen as human as their human counterparts.
Yeah.
And I think that's the argument I want to believe in. That the whole point of Blade Runner is that we can't tell replicants apart from humans, and the argument there is, well, should we have to? Like, why do we have to? They could be just as real as you and I. And I think Deckard doesn't care that Rachel's a replicant. He loves her.
Okay, well, now you've justified it. I'm not seething with rage anymore, so that's good.
But yeah, what a great film. And of course, I would say, such an intellectual property that really shouldn't have had a sequel, but was really expertly pulled off.
Yeah, the sequel is good.
Yeah,
Yes.
when it was first announced, everyone was just so outraged. You can't touch Blade Runner with a 10-foot barge pole. Really, it's perfect. But Denis Villeneuve did such a great job, and it's only really cemented him in my mind as a director to look out for, especially with his adaptation of Dune coming up, whenever it gets to come out.
And well, we can say it now. The film for tomorrow is one of his, isn't it?
There we go.
It's
Yeah.
Arrival.
So
It's
tomorrow's
Arrival.
film of the day, Arrival. Actually, it's my favorite Villeneuve film.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get people to watch it here tomorrow with me.
Yeah,
because
I've watched it ages ago, and it's very vague in my mind what happened in it. So that'd be nice to watch it fresh.
If listeners get a chance, there's a great YouTube channel called Nerdwriter, and he did an amazing. Sorry to sidetrack from Blade Runner, but he did an amazing video essay on Arrival and how it its editing and its pacing and structure are really sort of like films within films. So it's a very good video essay. So check that out if you can. Connor, what were you going to say?
I was literally just going to say that I haven't seen a Denis Villeneuve film that I haven't liked. And I still feel like it's such an injustice that Sicario was it was just marketed as this run-of-the-mill action film, and it was so much more than that. That's another great film, so I'd say that.
I've not seen it.
Yeah.
There you go. There's another one to watch.
Yeah.
Sicario, Prisoners as well. Oh, what a good film.
Yeah, he did that, didn't he? That's really good. Yeah,
anyway, we're getting sidetracked, aren't we? Blade Runner, Ridley Scott. What a good director.
My guy.
Now I'm thinking about it. Interesting to think about Alien again, being such a strong feminist, having these strong feminist vibes. Blade Runner being, the femme fatale and being a replicant as well. What do you think about that? Because it's from Ridley Scott, who did Alien as well. So I'm curious as to why he felt so strongly, only 3 years after doing Alien, to going back to having such a male-centric performance and film.
Yeah, I wonder what.
Well, isn't it based off Philip K. Dick? Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously that there is.
There's no reason to change that.
Yeah, but I mean,
if the story works, why change it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Especially if you're adapting it. If he'd written it, I can see all right, why did he do that? But if you're adapting it, then that's a bit harder to really change it, isn't it?
Yeah. Fun fact: Ridley Scott really wanted Harrison Ford to keep his luscious Han Solo hair for the film, but he famously hated the sort of the medium locks that he had in Star Wars. And one day before principal photography started, Harrison Ford cut his hair.
Oh wow!
So we get that sort of really bad, uneven haircut that you see all the way out through the film. I like it as well. It's different.
Yeah. It goes with the vibe of the film.
Yeah, definitely. I can't really imagine him with his Han Solo, and I think it would have been too distracting, because when I see Harrison Ford with that haircut, it's iconic.
Yeah, it's Han Solo. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the Rachel
what's
haircut.
Han Solo doing in Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a crossover episode.
Yeah. So yeah, he cut his hair one day before principal photography started, which I think would have turned a few heads.
It's mental how that little change would have totally made it a different film. Really, well, not a different film, but it would have changed the whole vibe of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that really sums up Blade Runner a lot, because there was one tiny change to a lot of the things in the film can ruin it, really.
Yeah.
Like the voiceover and stuff like that.
I'd say especially the fact that didn't it come out the same year as Empire Strikes Back as well?
I think Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back was 1980. This was 82.
Oh, was it 82?
Yeah.
I thought this was.
Yeah, 1982.
Oh man, Harrison Ford was hot property then, man. I mean, it still is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. a bit of good trivia here for you. The studio wasn't happy, obviously, with the original final ending where Rick Deckard is looking at the piece of origami, leaves his building with Rachel, and the end of the theatrical, obviously, it's Deckard's voiceover about Rachel. There's used over helicopter footage from the opening scene of The Shining. So when they're driving through the countryside, Stanley Kubrick was contacted, and being a fan of Alien, he happily gifted it on the condition that only shots that were not used in The Shining could be used. And since there was so much footage, which Kubrick was notorious for reshooting.
Yeah.
I think in The Shining that he got Shelley Duvall to do the famous bat scene up the staircase, something ridiculous like 130 times.
Yeah.
He had so much footage of just the helicopter flying through the Colorado hills. He gave it to Ridley Scott to use it for his really weird theatrical ending to Blade Runner. Yeah. So there we go. What else did we have this week?
We had Victoria.
Victoria, what a film!
What a film! Have you seen it, Connor?
I'll confess that instead of watching Victoria, I watched the Muppets Christmas Carol.
That's all right. We'll just dock it from your pay.
Yeah.
And wait, you guys are getting paid. My justification is that it is also a film about time and moments in passing. That's all I'll say.
Go on then, justify yourself.
Well, I mean, it's Christmas past, present, and future, so it's inherently about time and how a man changes throughout it.
Who'd have thought that the Muppets would be so deep?
Yeah,
it really is. It's really good. Like rewatching it, it is a really good film. Anyway, we're not talking about that film, so
I
save
guess
that for the Christmas episode.
I guess that just leaves Charlie and I to talk about Victoria. I know actually, I watched this film because of you, Chaz.
Oh really?
I remember you got me onto it, and I'm really glad you did because it became one of my favorite films, and I'm really glad that it's part of the festival.
That's just I love it. It's such a good film. Like insane. I got trivia about this.
Oh, okay.
They well, I don't know, you might know it actually, but obviously, so that the whole film is one take for those that don't know watching us. So I think it starts at like she's leaving a club, and then it runs the whole time. We move with them through their story in real time, and obviously that's very, very expensive to do that on a production. To be doing that, what, 2 hours? I think the film is.
It's like 2 hours and 18 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's set in like the middle of Berlin. So to do that like in the middle of Berlin, it's probably a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they had enough in their budget to do 3 takes. That's all they did of the film was 3 takes, and they finally got it on the last take. The other 2 they messed them up.
Yeah, I think I remember reading on the second attempt they got to the final shootout scene, and something went wrong. So they come 2 hours into the film, they had like 18 minutes left, and then they messed it up, and they had to start it again the next week.
It'd be awful, wouldn't it? Like to be the person that messed that up. It's just.
But it's interesting you say that because there was a massive mistake in the third attempt, but you can't see it, thankfully. So in the scene right after the bank robbery, the actress who plays Victoria, she actually forgot where to drive and she took the wrong turn. And everyone just had this massive outburst of panic in the car, and it's completely genuine.
Is that why they're like, no, go right?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
And they were risking everything. They were risking filming crew members and ruining the whole movie. So, and even the director is in the car with them, but he's in the trunk of the car, right in the back.
Right.
And he started screaming directions in sheer panic, and so his screaming had to be removed during audio editing.
Wow.
And the car actually does end up driving past some crew members, but thankfully none of them can be seen thanks to the cameraman, because that cameraman is the MVP of that film. He is so good. He saw
it must have taken so much like stamina to do that whole film.
Oh, absolutely. But also just his reaction time, because the car actually ended up driving past some crew members, but none of them can be seen because the cameraman reacted so quickly by filming from a much
Right.
lower angle in the car, so that thankfully none of the windows were in the frame whilst she was driving down the wrong street.
Right.
So
That's
it's
clever.
real MVP of that film.
There's also, when I was watching an interview the other day
Mhm.
after I watched it, and when he goes to the club the second time,
Mhm.
Victoria just like runs off like halfway through,
Yeah.
and because she needed the toilet,
Right.
so she like, but that isn't actually a club, it's just a set.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a toilet there, so she just like went out and like had a piss on the street,
No
and then
way.
just came back in. Yeah, apparently.
That's crazy.
She was like, I can't hold it anymore. I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
Then just ran off and did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got to say, in terms of our theme for the festival, it really captured time and moments in passing for me, because I don't know about you, Chaz, but I couldn't breathe for the whole film. There was something
No.
about the camera not changing at all. And I think, when we, in a minute, we'll talk about very quickly, we'll compare it to Birdman in 1917. Those films, if you didn't know, they are also shot in one take, but it's
Well,
actually
yeah.
lots of different
Like
takes edited together.
pseudo one take films,
Yeah.
aren't they?
So
Like, yeah.
Birdman in 1917 utilized some pretty impressive, but cheap CGI.
like
It's
invisible editing.
yeah, it's
isn't it, as
invisible
well?
editing.
Yeah.
And so when I'm watching those films, I don't feel as sort of claustrophobic or anxious. But man, Victoria, I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, and I remember just when the credits started rolling, just this huge just sigh of relief coming over me.
It's like from the very first shot, though. Like,
Yeah.
even though you're like, oh, you're just thrown into the world,
Mhm.
and you don't really know.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never been
what.
so engrossed in a film.
Yeah,
I don't
like
think.
you don't know what's going to happen at the
Yeah.
end or anything. You don't know where it's going when you first start, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, right, okay, I'm in this now. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
it's
remember
incredible.
being so scared of the police. I remember like feeling the fear of the characters, because
Yeah.
it was like I'd recorded the whole thing on my phone and then watched it back.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was crazy. So yeah, that stayed with me for such a long time. And sometimes I can't bring myself to watch it again because I don't want to go through all of that catharsis.
It's stress, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very, very stressful film to watch. Absolutely.
On the thing of editing, we're rewatching it, and it's got the really good soundtrack by Nils Fram, which
Yeah.
everyone should listen to. It's mint. But the music in it sort of works like an edit. So when the music comes in, everything else, all the audio from the diegetic audio from the street or whatever,
Yeah.
it like silences, and you just get the music on its own. So this sort of works as an editing device on its own, the music, which is really cool. It sort of segments the film in a different way, which is nice.
It's
Sounds like I'm about to watch this film, guys.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you might have to.
Then you'll finally get your pay.
Yeah.
One final thing about Victoria before we quickly move on and talk about Birdman in 1917. Bit of outrage here for you, Chaz. Victoria was actually refused a nomination for best film because best foreign film, sorry. Because obviously,
the Oscars,
you'd think it would be nominated for best foreign film, rightly so. And the
Yeah.
reason that it didn't qualify for best foreign film is because the main character Victoria is Spanish and she's in Berlin with a bunch of German-speaking Germans. So mutually they spoke English for most of the film
Yeah.
because they had that language in common. So because most of the film is in English, it was completely rejected for best foreign film.
Wow.
Even though
That's mad.
it is a foreign film, the director's foreign, the setting,
Yeah.
it's all got all the makings of a best foreign film, but it was completely snubbed. And I, for one, I'm outraged.
We'll get on to the Academy.
Yeah, I'm outraged. So obviously, yeah, Birdman 1917, both long takes, but they used some CGI magic.
So you were saying about your chest being tight. I had that for 1917.
Yeah.
The entire it was a very similar experience for me watching Victoria and 1917.
Yeah.
It's like that end scene when he's running across the top of the trench. It's like, oh my god,
that is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't I don't want to ruin any, I don't want to sort of pull people out of the world a bit. But have you noticed that he bumps into somebody when he's running along,
Yeah, yeah.
and the person just acts as if they've been shot, like they just stay down on the ground.
yeah,
Like they just, because imagine if something goes slightly how you wouldn't expect it to as an extra, and you know it's like a huge take film.
yeah,
You just have to go with it, wouldn't you? You just have to
yeah.
go along with
That's a good scene though.
it.
It's fantastic.
I love how I know you said it made your chest tight, and it was like, edge of your seat kind of film, but I love how it's just not that all the way through. Like
Yeah,
when he jumps into the river to escape someone shooting at him from God knows where, and then slowly he comes out of this ruined city, and the
Mhm.
gunshots kind of fade out, and then you hear the sound of birds coming up into the mix, and then it's
yeah.
this river and that'll stick with me forever. I think, like, I absolutely love that part of the film.
There was
That's
actually
when
a
like it looks
yeah.
like it's snowing with all the petals, doesn't it?
Yeah,
As well.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
honestly, it's like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, I think, in a film.
After
It's
the
so
film
good.
was released, there was a petition for the young man who sung the a cappella song to all the soldiers. There was a petition for them to do a studio version of that and include it on the soundtrack, and the petition actually was successful. So now you can go on YouTube and watch that young actor sing
Right.
Oh,
the
cool.
song. Yeah, and that's my favorite moment in the film
Yeah.
um, when he gets out of the water and he just goes to sit down with the other soldiers just to catch his
Mm.
breath.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bit of a stick in the mud now, though, and say there's one thing in the film that really ruined it for me.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, that was fine. That was fine. Obviously there are a lot of big names in it that only get like one or two lines, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it's fine. I can live with that. But no, it was the intermission. The
All
the
right.
one obvious cut in the film in which when he gets knocked out
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
took me out of the one shot feel.
Yeah. I remember that being quite jarring at the
It
time,
was
actually.
so
Yeah.
and
But I think, is that not the point though? Because you're following him, aren't you? And then it's like Victoria. It's like
yeah.
you're following you are Victoria essentially, aren't you?
But what it
Or
reminded me of is I'm not sure if anyone's ever played like a really good RPG game, like something like Skyrim. You go into the menu on Skyrim, and it asks you if you want to wait, like you want your character to wait in this
Yeah.
place, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, how many hours do you want the character to wait? Like if you want to go and do a mission, but it says you can't start this mission until nightfall. So you go into the
Yeah.
menu
right.
and you skip time, and it's like, oh, how many hours do you want to wait? And it's like, oh, 6 hours, and then your
Yeah.
hard drive loads the game, and then boom, it's nighttime. That's what it felt like. It felt like this, we
It's just
kind of need it to
emotion,
be
right?
nighttime for the cinematography to look really nice because Roger Deakins really wants it to be, you know, fire and orange and all of that stuff that Roger Deakins really loves. He really loves orange, if you haven't noticed. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, it was just this kind of well, this is supposed to be real time, but we kind of need it to be nighttime now. So I guess we'll knock our main character out and put in a really jarring cut in this no cut long take film,
Yeah.
and it just really pissed me off.
No, I'd agree. That
Yeah.
stops it from being like a perfect or near perfect.
Yeah, but apart from that, everything is perfect. I think it's an
Yeah.
amazing film.
Yeah.
It got nominated, didn't it? For an Oscar, I think. Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it was very close to being best film. It won best film at everything else, like the BAFTAs
Yeah.
and the SAGs and everything. Sorry, SGAs. But it didn't get it at the Oscars because Parasite won.
Oh, I've still not seen that. I need to
Oh,
get on
class
it.
film. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I rewatched that last week, actually.
Yeah.
Good film.
What a great film. Lots of hidden CGI in that as well that you don't notice.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Like
see who's really good at that is David Fincher.
yeah, he's very good at that.
It's insane. When you look at like some of the shots in Gone Girl or
Mhm.
something like that, and you're like, why CGI that? But then when you're watching it, you're like, oh, it just doesn't seem that
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Birdman as well. Similar in execution to 1917, although it really I think Birdman was very instrumental in putting the long take back on the map a bit.
Oh, that's the first
Yeah.
film I remember watching and being
Mhm.
like, oh, this is a thing. Like,
Yeah.
Didn't it
people
come out the same
actually.
year as Victoria though?
Let's have a look.
It might have done. Because then I kind of feel bad for Victoria kind of slipping under the radar when, Birdman kind of took center stage with the long take.
Like when has Lubezki not done like the best cinematography ever? Any film he's worked on is absolutely beautiful. There.
Yeah, 100%. He's a really good cinematographer, like one of the best.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Children of Men. Like I rewatched that.
Oh, yeah, I watched a very good YouTube video essay on how how Alfonso Cuarón shoots 3 different films at 3 different budgets.
Oh, you sent me that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
so
good video.
yeah, he
Yeah,
watched one of his Mexican films which had like a $2 million budget, and then Children of Men which had like a 10 or something 20 whatever it was,
that's Gravity, wasn't it?
and then Gravity which had like $100 million budget.
Yeah.
That's a great video essay on that.
That when looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff for Gravity, that is sort of like is insane as well. The CG in that.
Yeah,
is
I think CG obviously gets a really bad reputation because everyone thinks that CG is bad, but you only ever
Yeah.
see bad CG.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
glad. I'm so glad that you're with me on that because
Yeah.
the whole debate around CG just angers me any time it comes up. Really, I'll be honest.
Everyone says, "Well, look at Christopher Nolan. He never uses CGI in his films." I'm like, "Well, wrong. He uses a lot of CG
absolutely
in his
does.
films.
Yeah.
A heck of a lot. Like they had to create this whole new software. Kip Thorne. I mean, I love Kip Thorne, guys. Harken back to podcast
Yeah.
number 1. But Kip Thorne had to.
Interstellar, yeah.
He had to write an entire new software for the CGI for the visual artist because the computers couldn't render the black hole, the physics of the black hole. So
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan loves CG, especially when it's needed. But
I think it's just doing it well
Hmm.
and like hiding it, really, isn't it? It's like hiding it in plain sight. So
yeah,
that
or if
you
it
d-
can
you don't
serve
think
your
it's
story,
CG.
or if it can heighten an image.
Yeah.
I think like in the new Joker film. Obviously, that's got some amazing production design, and it's
Yeah.
very clearly like this late 1970s dirty, grungy city. But most of the skyline in that film is all CGI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'd say it's similar to editing as well. Like,
Mm.
I mean, unless there's a great moment in editing, great editing you don't notice because it.
Yeah.
The whole point of editing really is to just like, it's don't break the immersion in the film. Someone shouldn't know that this film's edited really. Like,
Yeah,
for the most
that's it.
part.
Yeah. You shouldn't see the edit.
So people only notice bad editing, like they only know, like they notice bad CGI. Similar
Absolutely.
kind of thing.
And Birdman, obviously, I think, even though you can argue it doesn't have any editing because it's all sort of hidden, that is a really good example of it's well hidden editing, well hidden CGI.
Yeah.
But going to be a stick in the mud and say that there's one thing in the film which ruins it for me.
The last scene.
Yeah, the ending. So
Yeah.
weird. What happened? What happened? I love Edward Norton in it.
Oh yeah,
He's great.
class.
He's just playing himself.
Yeah.
He is chilling.
Every time I watch the film, I'm like, I try and think about the ending, and I'm like, oh, there's probably some arty, like cool, like pretentious meaning to this, but I'm just not getting it.
I'll rise to the kind of pretension bait, and I'll say, is it not just to do with like pride? Because I mean, he literally shoots his own nose off. And a lot of this thing's about his own image. After doing these superhero films he did, and he's trying to do this new thing, and it's there's a critic, and a lot of it's about image and things. So I look at it as something to do with pride. I'm not exactly sure what it's saying, but I mean,
Right.
I think it's an optimistic ending. I'd say that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I would
But as well.
Sorry, do go on.
I'll just say this isn't related to cinematography. It's a little bit of a sidestep, but the score of the film, as well as someone who plays drums, and I just love percussion and everything to do with that. The score is just. I'll listen to it just on its own. It's just so good for this film.
2013 and 14, those 2 years were so amazing for film scores.
Yeah.
And so inventive because you had Whiplash, which really brought jazz back to a lot of people. And then you had Birdman, which had a really inventive percussion score. And then you also had Interstellar, which, that was the first sci-fi to use an organ, which, an organ is a staple of horror or, a big, or opera, and then so to see it in a sci-fi was, the soundtrack to Birdman is great. You can have it on while you're studying.
Yeah.
I'll just put it on when I'm doing another thing. It's just
Mhm.
so good. Like I absolutely love it. The performances, like we've already said about Edward Norton, but it's just like there's so many good performances in that film. Like
Yeah, I'm really happy for
it just
Michael Keaton as well.
yeah
Because obviously it's kind of meta. He's essentially still playing himself again, like Edward Norton is, because Michael Keaton was Batman back in the 1980s,
yeah
and then he kind
Yeah.
of became a nobody. And then, in a similar way to how his character is trying to do this piece of theatre to get back into acting and to be relevant again, Michael Keaton did
yeah
Birdman to get back into
yeah
acting and be
Yeah.
relevant again. And he went on to get nominated, and now he's been in Spider Man, and he's going to be in Spider Man again. And he did. Was he
yeah
in Spotlight or something? Or
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was
Spotlight. Yeah.
Spotlight was
yeah.
really
So
good.
I'm really happy for him. I think it's a great performance.
Yeah
Just you were saying about the years of release. So Birdman came out in 2014,
Hmm.
and Victoria was 2015.
Okay, so pretty close
So
then.
it was before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not too
yeah.
bad.
I mean, they
Yeah.
might have been in production. We might have been in production at similar times though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So
Yeah
I haven't seen Thinking of Ending Things. I haven't got around to watching it yet. So you boys are gonna have to chat about that, and yeah, you can dock it from my pay. But Thinking of Ending Things was the other film that we had to watch this week as part of the festival, and then tomorrow's
yeah.
film is going to be Arrival. So let's wrap it up and talk about Thinking of Ending
So
Things, gents.
I would think this fit like it's very people either like get it or you just
Yeah,
don't. Yeah.
it's divisive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's such a divisive film.
Because as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, so it's life. It's like saying what life is, and like
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
really deep and pretentious art way. But
yeah,
like I know of some people who've just been, I didn't get anything from that film. I don't know what it's saying about
Hmm.
anything. But
yeah.
what did you think, Claire?
I love Charlie Kaufman when he's not directing his own writing. I'll say that
Right.
because, like, being John Markovich and Eternal Sunshine, amazing films, like absolutely amazing films. But Anomalisa and this, they just didn't do anything for me. Like, there were parts of Thinking of Anything that I really liked. The performances were all incredible.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't fault any of the acting in it. Just that huge dance number near the end.
I was just about to
That,
say about the
that
dance
just
thing.
that just did nothing for me.
I
Like,
I was like, I loved it. I was like, where's this going? And then it just burst out into song and like
yeah,
on stage, and
no, I like
it's,
the
it's
I like
cool.
I like the stage thing. I like that, but just the whole dance thing throughout the school, I just couldn't get into. And
It's
it was
proper
just
weird. It's one of those films where it's just you just have to go with it and
yeah.
hope you get something from it at the end.
You're not
They're in
selling this
they're
one
in
to me, guys.
No, no,
they're
it's
in
worth a watch. It's worth a
they're
watch.
in the car for such a long time, and
Yeah,
there's a part where I forget her character's name, but she's basically just spouting a review for another film by a film critic, and I'm just like,
yeah, yeah,
Charlie Kaufman, you, you you can't just quote something in a film. Like, you can't just. I'm sorry, but that doesn't count as like having a deep message on something. You can't just take something someone else has said and put it in your film like that. You can't do that. That's cheating as far as I'm concerned.
There's the whole thing, like, just they quote philosophy to each other and stuff like that, don't they?
Yeah,
And I was at the car scenes. I didn't really enjoy.
yeah, yeah,
Like or everything else, I got on board with. But when you just, as you're saying, like quoting, I don't know, Descartes, it's like, well, if I wanted to do that, I'd just read the book, like,
yeah, yeah.
or I'd take a course in philosophy. Like, it's just, yeah, it doesn't fit right in that
It's
film, I don't think.
it's funny you should say about a book because obviously this was an adaptation.
Yeah,
I feel like the premise made me want to read the book because I suspect that it's something that will work better in the medium of a book. Like it's one of those
yeah,
films where it's like, is this just a film because Charlie Kaufman liked the story and he liked the book, or is it because he thought that the film as a medium could do something different with this source material? Because I'm not sure. I'd
yeah.
love to wait
Because
until I've read the book, but I just don't know why it had to be a film. If that
I
makes sense.
think if I've not read the book, but again, I want to, like you. Because I think in a book you can get thoughts across easier, can't you?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
it's
yeah,
that sort of portrayal of a character's thoughts in a film is
yeah,
always like very very subjective.
Yeah.
Like as you said, I just don't know if it works in this film particularly well.
I think I will give it another watch probably at
Yeah.
some point.
And
Yeah.
I will give it
It's one of
another
those
watch.
that I will watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try and give it
There we
another
go.
watch. I'll try. Well, thanks for everyone coming to listen to us ramble about films again. We're halfway through our festival now. We're actually having a really good time. I think
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
it's really
Good.
nice to come and chat about films because with how the world is right now, it's not a lot of opportunity to meet up and be social. So this is a great way of doing it. So obviously, we hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we hope you'll join us next time.
So yeah, the
Tomorrow's-
next one
Yeah.
is the 19th of December, so
Yeah.
Saturday.
Bit of a
At 7
stretch now
o'clock.
between this
Yeah.
one and the next, but next Saturday we hope you can all join us, and then obviously the week after that it's going to be Christmas and the festival will be wrapping up. So halfway.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. Right, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Obviously, don't forget to
Cheers.
follow us on all of our social media handles. Give us some support and stay tuned, and you can follow along on our schedule and catch up on all the films that you need to watch, and come back next week and we can talk about more.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Bye.